everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk about Black History Month. The month that is a celebration of my people, because I am a black man and everything. And it's about all our accomplishments, all the oppression that we have gone through over like centuries of living in like America and stuff like that. And even till this day, we are still being oppressed. And so I'm here today to talk to you about certain characters or TV shows or episodes that revolve around Black History Month that I personally enjoy. So I'm here today to talk to you about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Beyond the Stars. This was a very interesting and unique episode. It reminded me of Inner Light from Star Trek Next Generation, but I never liked the Inner Light. That just always got on my nerves and stuff. It would just stay very boring, and the other crew wasn't really there, you know. Also, this has a huge, huge, like Black civil rights awareness type episode of how the world was back in those days. And it reminds me so much of Nichelle Nichols' career in Star Trek, the original series. So, like, this episode makes you really think, kind of like the Matrix, like what is reality? You know what I'm saying? Towards the end. But of course, we know what real reality is and everything. They just want you to kind of like, oh, what is it? I think it was around the time the Matrix came out and everybody was doing that crap, that whole philosophy thing. And so, Star Trek Deep Space Nine is very unique. When Gene Roddenberry died during the run of Next Generation, that is when producers tried to like get away from his vision. And with Deep Space Nine, they really got away from his vision. So much that they did that on purpose. They said they couldn't see Roddenberry's vision be realistic of a utopia on Earth and everything. So this series is very, very, very dark and grim. But it still feels like Star Trek, unlike Star Trek Discovery. And so, with that, this show introduced us to the very first Black Star Trek captain on a Star Trek show. And so, Avery Brooks, not only does he star first as Commander Cisco, but later Captain Cisco, but he also directed this episode. So, he had to do double duty, man. And so, in this episode, he is in the present day on the space station talking to Major Kira about the war that's going on with the Dominion and how he just lost like one of his captain buddies, and because the ship went down and they can't find it. And so he's really devastated by that. After that, his father comes on board the station. Now, his father is not used to space travel, so this is a very rare thing. And so, like, his father, may the actor rest in peace. I'm not sure what the actor's name is, but like, they have a discussion, right? And Cisco is at the point where he doesn't know if he can continue to do this and everything. They're so deep in, they're like 2 years in the Dominion War and it's not over with yet. He assumed when they retook the station, because they lost it to the Kardashians and the Dominion, that that would end the war, but it did not. And so, like, he doesn't know he want to continue being the one to lead the war. And he's thinking maybe he should let somebody else do it, or he should take another position doing something else, you know? And so his father tells him, you know, whatever your decision is, you know, I'll support it and everything, but you really need to like think about this, right? So towards the beginning of the episode, all of a sudden, he starts to have these weird like visions where he's seeing people. I don't know if it's 1930s or 1960s. No, it couldn't be 30s. It didn't seem like 30s. Maybe it was either 1930s or 1960s. But anyway, old school like America, right? And when it was like really prejudiced and stuff. So it was probably I think it was probably 1960, something like that. And so like he started seeing like these visions, but these visions were people that are part of his crew. But it's the regular actors and actresses without the makeup. That's what makes this episode so great. Another reason, because it's so cool to see them without their makeup and stuff and hear some of their real voices. So, like, throughout all this part, as he's doing stuff, he just keeps seeing these visions until he collapses and has to go to sick bay. Something is reconfiguring his mind. Similar to when I forgot something he did or somewhere he went. And then all of a sudden, as he's talking to Cassidy, because they're dating at this time, he like sees somebody in a baseball uniform who looks like a Worf but is in human form walking through a corridor. So he goes through, and now he's transported to like a street. He's in his uniform, he's dazed and confused, and he gets hit by a car. Then he wakes up as a man named Benny. And Benny works at a magazine place. And the entire like cast is the crew of Deep Space Nine. And they're all like as humans with like all these like New Yorker type accents and stuff. And so like they have to put out like a magazine articles every month, stories and everything. And so the woman who plays Kira, she writes a lot for the magazine stuff, but nobody knows she writes it. Well, the people who work there knows, but the viewers or the audience or the readers, I should say, they have no idea because she is a woman, and women don't have those type of like men don't want to see women do stuff like that. So she has to pretend like to be like a man or whatever. And so like when the boss dude, played by the Odo character, he tells her, you might want to sleep in that day because a photographer is supposed to come in and take pictures of the people who work here. And Benny's all like, oh, I guess I probably should like sleep in too, right? And he tells him, look, man, I'm sorry, this is how the way things are. Nobody wants to see a woman or a black man like, doing this type of stuff because they live in a very prejudiced times back then. And so like the dude who like draws the illustrations is played by General Martok, and I never knew that dude was white. Man, Klingons and their black faces, I swear. Klingons are very racist, especially back in the Next Generation. Not only do they do blackface, but they was the mock Asian people. That was the whole purpose of Klingons back in like the 60s and stuff. Anyway, so they're doing this whole science fiction thing. And Benny sees something that looks like the space station to Deep Space Nine, so he wants to do that. And so throughout this episode, he's interacting, like I said, with everybody from like his crew. And so he's dating the Cassidy character. The Worf dude plays like baseball and keeps hitting on her and tries to take her from him right in front of his eyes and everything. The Jake character's there. He's mostly just like this sly talking grifter who doesn't want to like turn his life around, but Benny tries to help him and stuff. So we see the prejudice of the 1960s in full display. Benny walks outside from his business, and we see two white cops, and they just start harassing Benny for no reason other than the fact that he is black. And so after the harassment and everything, they were gonna take him down to the station, but they had to be downtown and stuff. So they leave him alone. This crap used to happen a lot, and somewhat it still happens today. But back in those days, ooh, it happened a lot. And so like when he writes his story, he names the character Benjamin Sisko. Now, that's the name of the captain that I told you about in Deep Space Nine. And he talks about how he looks out the window, he's looking into space. Benny decides he's going to open his curtain window, and there he sees a reflection of Benjamin Sisko staring down at him with his Starfleet uniform. And so when you're watching this, you're kind of just like, what in the world is going on? There has to be some type of alien something at play here, or just something, you know what I'm saying? And so when he's every time he's walking outside to and from where he has to go, he sees the character who plays his father as a pastor, preaching the word of God, but then he knows Benny's name and he keeps prophesizing something. And Benny keeps asking, how do you know my name? And what are you talking about? And who are you? We know there's something up with this person. And then so this pastor dude, he always keeps mentioning the prophets. And it's like, oh, okay, I know what's going on now. He's one of the prophets and everything. And he must have sent like Cisco back in time or something, you know what I'm saying? And so like when he submit his work, everybody loves it. But the boss dude is just kind of like, I can't publish this. Like, you wrote that a black man is the captain on the space station and living on the moon and all this other stuff. And he's all like, well, what's wrong with that? He's all like, because nobody's going to want to read that. 'Cause, it's the times they live in. And he's trying to tell them, well, it shouldn't matter and stuff. So after a huge like debate, um, the O'Brien type character suggests, well, what if it's a dream? You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. Well, at some point in time, the boss is like furious with Benny because he wrote more stories about Benjamin Sisko on the space station he wasn't supposed to. So then that's when the O'Brien dudes all like, just say it's a dream. Just say that, he's a black character who has these dreams of better himself in the future. And so he dreams that he is in the future as a space person. Benny is a little reluctant, but he does come around to it. And so he's all like, yeah, like people should be okay with that because it's not like real, right? Well, so the boss is going to submit it. So if it's submitted, he'll get paid 3 cents every word, which is a big thing back then. And so he's all excited. He thinks his life is going to turn around and all this other good stuff. And so, like, he's really excited, right? Now, some sad stuff does happen. The character that plays like the grifter, he gets shot by those same two white cops, and he wants to know why. And they're all like, he tried to break into this car, and he had a weapon. The weapon was just a crowbar, and they shot and killed that man for like that. This still happens till this day with black men. We see it play out all the time, and it is disgusting that this still goes on today. Well, back at work, he's all excited, his coworkers all excited, and then the boss comes in, and here comes the bad news. The boss tells him that his publishers have decided they're not going to publish this month's magazine whatsoever. So none of their stories going to get published. All because of Benny's story of a black man being on the space station. And not only that, but his bosses want them to fire Benny. Benny is so upset that he said, you can't fire me, I quit. And after a huge argument back and forth, Benny breaks down and just lets it all out. This clip has been seen all over YouTube. There's a good clean version. The other versions are a version of like what's fake, what's real. When we get towards the end of this episode, I'll explain later. So Benny tells him that, he is a human being. And to him, Benjamin Sisko is real. And you cannot take that away from him. He's all like, he knows, like, he keeps talking about, he knows what is real. He keeps talking about how, like, it's not fair, how y'all, like, treat people and stuff like that. He just has this, like, beautiful monologue about what's real. And the whole idea to him of a black man rising up and having a prestigious job is like a huge thing for him, and nobody will take that away. And then he just collapses on the ground talking about it's real, just like over and over and over. And then he just like cries and sobs. Well, the ambulance comes and they take him out on the gurney. By this time, he is now back to being Benjamin Sisko. But before then, he is in like the ambulance talking to the pastor. And the pastor like keeps talking to him about prophets, this and that. And then he's back in his reality. the lesson for him to learn is what he tells, I think, his father or Major Kira or something like that, is that he's gonna stay working with in Starfleet on the war and everything. That he's not gonna get the position to nobody else. He's gonna continue it until, like, the war has ended and stuff. And then he keeps talking about, the whole Benny thing to his father, and he's all like, "What if we're not real? What if we are figments of imagination in Benny's head and everything?" And his father's all like, that would be like really like something crazy and stuff. And then so towards the end, he's looking out the window and he sees Benny looking back at him, which has now brought up the debate between fans: is this real? Is this not? Well, of course, the Star Trek reality is real because it was the prophets teaching him a lesson. And see, he needed to experience that level of hate and prejudice from back in the day of a man striving to make something of himself and be something that will cause him to want to see this war through and stick with it, because he is the only man who can, like, good enough to like stop it and stuff. This was a really good episode. It was a very powerful episode. It was a huge insight into what life was like being a black person back in like old like white America and stuff. And it's insane because like all these internet trolls and stuff who like bash woke culture, talking about that being replaced and everything. Those that are Star Trek fans and talking about how great this episode is, but then complain about this race replacing them or this gender replacing them and all this other crap, they have learned nothing from this episode. They have learned nothing from the message of Star Trek, which is weird. They call themselves Star Trek fans. This show is a teaching lesson, and it taught them that years ago, only for them to be ignorant today and dismiss everything, all because they're trying to stand up for white power and everything. It is disgusting, in my honest to God opinion. I don't understand how these people can like sleep at night saying what they saying, but then when you question, are you racist? Do you hate women? Do you hate black people? Do you hate LGBT? No, we don't hate this. Why you say we hate this? How dare you say we hate this? But when you complain all the time about woke culture and being replaced, what do people expect to like believe? You know what I'm saying? Happy Black History Month, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.